everyone, so I wanted to hop in with the first update to this video. So I'm now currently just up to page 125 of the Hunger Games, and I'm loving this. I'm surprised it's taken me this long to get to these books, but I wanted to pick this up because of the new one that was coming out like next week, I think. But I kind of wanted to read these last year, but then never got around to it because I just wasn't really in the mood, and I didn't read a whole lot last year. It was more the fact that I was a big slump for pretty much most of last year, but I'm taking things slow. But yeah, so I'm up to page 125, and this is really good. Like, I can see why so many people love these books. What Suzanne Collins does really well, I think, is the world establishment. So like, we learn a lot about the world in the first chapter, like that alone, and and the way they go into describe the Hunger Games and how the system works. So they're talking about the Tezzeret, which is stuff you can trade for like grains and stuff to essentially feed your family. But the downfall of that is that the more mouths you have to feed, the more times you have to buy these things, and that adds your name to the pool more for the Hunger Games. And they were talking about how it's not fair that obviously the poorer families with more mouths to feed have to essentially trade so often to essentially keep their family alive, but at the same time that essentially increases your chances of getting picked for the Hunger Games. And they were talking about the mayor's daughter, and Gail points out that how it's very unfair, and essentially what she did really well was describing how the Capitol uses this system to actively make them hate each other. Like, they know it's not their fault that, they're poor, and it's not the mayor's daughter's fault that she only gets her name put in every so often, so if you essentially don't grow up poor, you get your name put in at least once a year, for every year until you turn 18. So I think it was the first year it was once, and then the second year it was twice, and so on, something like that. And obviously the more you've got to trade these Tesserates for food, the more your name goes in. So, Gail was pointing out how unfair it is that, that they've got to essentially put their names in. Like, he has his in 40 times, whereas the mayor's daughter only has like the maximum of 8, I think it was. And like, he knows that it's not her fault that happened, but he can't help but hate her. And it was really good, because it's like, this is the way the government essentially turns everyone against each other. I went, oh, look, he's not wrong. Like, that was the perfect way to describe it. Like, this is how they sort of pit all the citizens against each other, poor versus rich, and so on and so forth. It's like, damn, like, holy shit. Another thing I wanted to point out with this as well is that you could tell this was written at the height of the not like other girls trope, because Katniss is definitely that kind of girl. Like, don't get me wrong, there's some, I kind of had most moments where I'm like, you go girl, go for it. There's a couple of other moments too, I'm kind of like, that's not real nice, babe. But so there's an instance where they first get on the train towards the Capitol, and Effie makes this really nasty comment about the previous year's tributes that, because they essentially get these, really fancy meals for the first time, and, like, obviously Katniss and Peter have never ever had that much food to eat in their lives. Like, this is the first time they're seeing that amount of food, and she makes this really nasty comment about the previous tributes where she's like, oh, watching them eat, and she goes, oh, at least you're more civilized than the other tributes we had last year, because they ate like dogs or something like that. And she goes, I beg your pardon. So what she decides to do is that the rest of the meal I decide to eat with my fingers just to piss her off. I'm like, yes, like,
boom, roasted.
That made me laugh so loud. Oh, when Peter tells her about his mother, I don't know how he said it, but the way it came across to me, that his mother basically said to him that, oh, it was kind of like she was hoping that Katniss wins instead. I'm like, Suzanne Collins, what the hell? Like, that's some fucked up shit. But, yeah, there's some things that Katniss does as well. Like, obviously, I was rooting for her when she essentially ate with her fingers to piss Effie off after that comment. I'm like, yes, I do that too, to be fair. But then there was another instance I just had. Oh, I read this a couple of hours ago, so I've probably forgotten it. But I know, I don't know what it was, but it was something in a monologue that because obviously you're in her head for most of this book, so you hear all her deepmost thoughts. And there was something that she said. I'm like, okay, that's a bit nasty. Like, you didn't need to do that, though. I'm like, obviously, I was all for her, showing Effie, like, bitch, shut the fuck up, because, like, how dare you say shit like that? Like, you have no idea what, these kids have lived through, so, like, who are you to say that? But then what she thought about someone else, I think it was Peter, I don't know what it was, but I was like, oh, girl, that's a bit much. Like, come on. Like, there's, like, look, I'll admit I can essentially tell people off, put them in their place when I need to, but the way she said it, I know what it was, I can't remember now, like I said, but it's definitely like, honey, like, no. But yeah, you can definitely tell that this was written at the height of the not like other girls trope. But so yeah, that's what I'm up to now. So they've only just had the tribute introduction ceremony and the scene where she shoots the apple of the roast pig during the what was it, not the selection, the assessment, that's what it was, where she shot the apple out of the pig's mouth because they weren't paying attention to her. And so I've just got to that part. So, but yeah, that's what I'm up to at the moment. I'm really, really enjoying this. Like I said, I'm up to page 125. So we haven't started the Hunger Games yet. I'm going to sign off now because I do have to go to work in the morning. But yeah, just to sign and let you know, I'm really loving this. Hey everyone, so it is now a couple of days later, and I thought I'd give a reading update. So I now am maybe, I say just over halfway through the book. I'm still really enjoying it. It's not necessarily a 5, maybe a very strong 4. I think it's because I've watched the movie so many times so I know what's happening. But I really like Suzanne's writing. It's really, really good. So I was saying the other day that I was kind of not really connecting with Katniss a couple of times because she sort of came across as a bit offish. But I think that's mostly because she's a character who's essentially had to grow up way too quickly. Like, obviously after her dad died, she sort of had to become the parent because her mother completely broke down, essentially. So she was essentially taking on that job and, like she was very young. So obviously that would take a toll on you. So, you've kind of got to mature a bit quickly than usual. So I think that's maybe what I didn't like so much about her. And sort of the fact that she's not someone who shares her emotions a whole lot. There was one part I really liked where it was after she shot the arrow at the game makers, like she had a full meltdown after that because she sort of, as she realised that, as she called down, she's like, well, shit, I've just essentially put a target on my back now because I've essentially pissed these guys off. And, obviously she gets the 11-point score, like the really high score, but she has this real moment where she's like, oh, fuck, I've really screwed this up, like, what are they going to do? And Hamish is just like, well, obviously they can't do anything now because it'd be too late to replace her. Like, it'd just be a pain. So, but she really has this big meltdown because she's like, oh shit, like, I'm doing this I did this to protect my sister, but then by acting out like this, I've kind of essentially put them in danger too. So, it's, yeah, it's interesting. Another thing I came across too was, there was this girl who's serving them who's mute, and Katniss realises that she's actually a girl that got caught while she and Gale were out hunting years ago. And they've come across each other again just now, and Peter sort of essentially kind of stops her from recognising her because obviously like that could lead to a whole nother can of worms. And it was interesting seeing her interact with this girl just before the Hunger Games because she's sort of like, oh, I'm sorry, I should have I should have helped you, but then she's essentially shakes her head and like, no, like, you'd essentially be like me, you know, that's, I think she kind of understands that, you know, like, she did what she had to do by hiding and not doing anything. So that was really interesting, and, so yeah, so now I'm up to the part where, so I've just started the games, and she's also just teamed up with Rue after the, Tracker Jacker nest, where she's dropped it on the other tribute. So that's what I'm up to at the moment. Like I said, I'm really enjoying it so far. It's not quite a 5-star. Like I said, it's more of a 4. But yeah, so I might read a bit more of this tonight and probably give you an update tomorrow, because I do have to be up early for it. But yeah, so far I'm still enjoying it. Not quite a 5-star, but still enjoying it nonetheless. Hey everybody, so it's now a couple of days later, and I got to part 3 of the Hunger Games the other night. And, we just had to get through, and it's so sad. It's so sad as it is in the movies. It's so heartbreaking. And that's kind of the beginning of the catalyst of Katniss essentially rebelling, and, like, she displays, like, the first real rage for the first time since this book started, where it's, like, because at the beginning of the book, she was talking about how when she and Gale would be in the forest, you know, and he'd sort of go off on the Capitol, and she just let it all out, and she was kind of like, I don't. Like, she essentially was just keeping her head down and trying to keep her family alive. Essentially, like, that was her main focus, and she was kind of like, that's unfortunately where we live. You know, like, we can't change anything about that, and this is sort of, now that she's been forced to be in these games and witness Ruth's death, she's like, hang on, this is bullshit. This is not fair. Like, this is wrong, you know, and she's like, well, you know, can we change things? You know, this is just bullshit. Like, why are we repeating the same cycle over and over and over again? And nothing changes. And, that was so good. Like, this is, like I said, it's the first time where she's actually understood why Gale's been so angry before. Like I said, words before, like, she just essentially tried to keep her head down, keep her family together, and that's essentially was her main goal. But witnessing what happened to Rue, and essentially what the games are doing to these kids, there's like, well, it's not fair, it's bullshit, you know, and you know, what, you know, can we change things? And, so I've just got to, like I said, I got to part 3. So they've just announced the rule change where if, you know, there's 2 victors from the 2 contestants from the same district, they can essentially win. So they've just announced that, and so now she's just set off to find Peter. So that's why I got up to the other night. It's still, at this stage, it's still a solid 4 stars. It's not a 5. It's not sort of, it's good. I think it's because I've seen the movies way too many times, and it's more the fact that I know what happens anyway. Like, I've seen the movies enough to know what happens. And that's nothing against Suzanne Collins' writing. Like, her writing's fantastic. It's just, it could be the fact that I'm not reading a whole bunch at the moment. I'm not rushing my reading this year. I'm taking it steady as I go, and it's, you know, just settling down to pick the book up again and dive back into it. But her writing's fantastic. Like, I won't deny it. It's really great. But it's more the 4-star for me, because it's not, like I say, it's not giving me that, oh my god, I really love this. I love it so much. It's more like, it's good. I like it, but it's not hyping me up as much as, like, say, the last bonus season book just did, where it's like, holy shit, I can't stop thinking about it long after I've read it. But like I said, I think that's more the fact that I've seen the movies that many times and I know what happens anyway, so, and plus in future books. That may change the further I go along with these books. So yeah, that's what I'm up to. So it's currently about 10 o'clock on Friday night, so I probably could get the last part of this done, because I do need to sort of try and get the other 3 books read before, well, I don't know whether I'll get to Sunrise in this video or whether I'll make it just separate, because I do kind of want that to match these editions, because they've only just brought out these ones as well, and I love these. These are so gorgeous, and they're just really, really pretty. So I kind of want the set to match it. I don't want I sort of don't want to just get the normal paperback and then them to release this kind of edition later on, because I'm trying to reduce the amount of double up copies I have of books, just because I'm running out of room essentially. So but yeah, so like I said, I'm up to part 3, so I might finish that tonight and then hopefully update you guys tomorrow, or once I've finished part 3, I don't know, but we shall see. Yes, but that's what I'm up to at the moment. Hey everyone, so this is the next day, and I did finish 100 Games last night. I gave it 4 stars as predicted, not quite as good, but I did start Catching Fire this morning, and now I'm up to part 2. This is way better than book 1. Like, book 1's fine, don't get me wrong, but this is definitely 5-star material. So we've just had, like, you know, the tour of districts, and then, you know, Gale's thing, and then where we're now starting to see the hints of rebellion in the districts, and yeah. So we just got up to the part where they've stopped Gale from getting essentially his ass killed, basically. But yeah, oh, this is so much better. There's a part at the beginning where obviously Snow comes and visits her, and she says to the whole thing she can smell like blood for some reason, and when he leaves, he goes to whisper in her ear, and she can actually smell the blood on his breath. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I don't know whether we find out what that is later on. But yeah, I was like, what the fuck is? Because obviously, you know, he has this thing about the flowers and that, but like she said, like she could smell that, but she could also smell blood. She's like, where the fuck is that coming from? And then when is revealed that he had it on it, I'm like, ew, like what the? Although I do know in the next movie we find out he's like got this thing in his lungs or something that makes him cough up blood, so maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but yeah, when I say this is definitely way better than the first book. Like, the first book's good, don't get me wrong, but this is definitely 5-star material. So yeah, so I'm up to part 2 at the moment. I definitely could probably smash this out today if I wanted to. I might try to, because I did end up pre-ordering the audiobook for Sunrise, because I did put my name down for the book at the library last night, and I was like position number 11 for this book, so I don't know how long that's going to be, and I don't know how many copies they're getting, so I'm going to be like, I can't wait that long to do this video. So yeah, so I pre-ordered the audiobook for that last night through Audible. So yeah, I don't know whether I'll get to that before, I don't know whether I'll catch up before that book comes out, I don't know, but like I said, I've got the audiobook ready for when I need it. But yeah, I could definitely finish this today if I wanted to, but we shall see. So yeah, I'm up to part 2 at the moment. They haven't announced like the quarter quell yet, but I get the sense that that's coming up. But oh yeah, this is so much better than the first book. Hey everybody, so it is now a couple of days later, but I do want to let you know that I finished Catching Fire about half an hour ago. Now I'm going to give this 5 stars on Goodreads, but it's probably more out of 4.5. I didn't realise how very little the Hunger Games is in this book. Like, it's only, like, maybe the last, like, quarter of the book. Like, part 3 is just the games, and it doesn't last very long, which I thought it'd last a lot longer, but, yeah, so the games are, I felt like, certain parts had a bit more impact, like the end where, you know, they find, Katniss finds out that, you know, it was all a ruse with the victors. You know, they were essentially teaming up to make sure she survived, and, you know, obviously she's found out about Peter and all that. So I was quite shocked at how very little the games itself is featured in this. But yeah, like I say, I gave us 5 stars on Goodreads, but I'll give it a 4.5 overall, because it did drag a little bit for me. But so that's that. And I did just get an email saying the audiobook for Sunrise has come in on to Audible, which is great. I'm not going to listen to it just yet, because I do want to read Mockingjay and Ballad before I start that. Obviously, because everyone else has obviously read those first prior to this one. So, I might start Mockingjay tonight. I do have to work tomorrow, but then as far as I know at this stage, I don't have to work again till Sunday. So hopefully I'll have Thursday to essentially kind of knuckle down and read. Hopefully try and get Mockingjay. Well, I hope I can get Mockingjay done a bit, at least started tonight, and then we'll see where we go from there. And hopefully I can do, not Sunrise, Ballad. Oh, Songbirds, but hopefully I can do that while I do my new book thing. So this is actually a storybook lamp. I saw this on Amazon. Well, actually, no, I saw a friend of mine from school do the Alice one of this, and I thought, oh, what other ones they have? And they had the Beauty and the Beast one. So I thought, this is quite cool. So it's very, very pretty. Very nice. So hopefully I can listen to the audiobook maybe for a ballad while I do that, or I might even, I don't know yet. But that's where I'm up to now. So hopefully I can start Mockingjay tonight, and then I shall hit you back up again when I have my first thoughts on that book. Hey guys, so it is a couple of days later, but I do want to let you know that I did start Mockingjay the other night, and I got up to, I think it's just exactly page 100. Yes. So I'm now up to chapter 7, and there's a couple of things that happened in this. So we found out that her prep team were essentially extracted from the capital, and they essentially found them being tortured, and then Katniss is like, what the hell is going on? Like, what are you doing? And then Gail's like, oh, why are you defending them? Like it's, like they're the ones that sent you off, prepped you, made you look pretty, and sent you off for slaughter. And she's like, well, they didn't know any better. Like, that's what they've done their whole lives. Like, and, and obviously that creates an argument between them, because he's like, oh, well, how can you defend them? And she feels essentially she feels the ick defending them, but then she's kind of like, well, like she said, that's all they've ever known, so that's all they've been taught. It's good, they weren't being taught that what they're doing is wrong, essentially. And then there was another point where they go to like the weapons room and that, and they're talking about this gun that Gale picks up, and he's like, oh, because, no, I think Katniss says something about, like, why, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was along the lines of, it's essentially what was it? I need to go back to it, because where was it? Oh, yeah. So basically she asks, because they're in the weapons room talking about all these guns and arsenal that 13 has, and he's like, and she essentially says, he makes some sort of comment, and then she goes, oh, so do you think it'd be easy, using that on people? And he's like, oh, I didn't say that, blah, blah, blah. And then, here we go. So he says to Katniss, but if I'd had a weapon that could have stopped what I saw happen in 12, if I'd had a weapon that could have kept you out of the area, I would have used it. And then she goes, oh, me too. But then she says she omits the fact that, what was it? So basically after, essentially, she omits, oh, me too. She says, but I don't know what to tell him about the aftermath of killing a person, about how they never leave you. And so that's what it's the comment he makes, and she sort of then goes to him, so you're saying it's easy, essentially turning a gun on someone. And he's like, oh, no, I didn't say that, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, well, you you've never had to turn it on people, you know, you've never used it on people, so how do you know that you'd be okay with it until you've done it? And like in that comment said, you know, she doesn't tell him about the aftermath of killing someone, because I don't think he's ever killed anyone, as far as I can gather in this book so far. He hasn't, but because they've been hunting animals all their lives to essentially you know, keep their families alive. So she's kind of, you know, saying to her, well, you know, yes, you've been a hunter all your lives, but you've only hunted animals. You've never you've never actually looked another human being in the eye and had to kill them, whereas Katniss has. And I'm like, that is so true. It's, oh my God. And then they're talking about Finnick at one point, and this book does a really good job of depictions of PTSD and trauma, because essentially Finnick is a lot more broken than Katniss is, because essentially they're talking about when they're trying to talk to him, essentially you have to repeat yourself 3 times before anything essentially gets through to him. And it's like, I mean, like, after, you know, who would be fully functional about seeing all that crap, you know? So that's what I'm up to at the moment. Oh, another thing I sort of thought of the other day is, so obviously, you know, District 13 is a place that was talked about in the books, and they were, because in the last book Katniss encountered these 2 chicks that were essentially going in search of 13 because they suspected that 13 survived, and obviously in this we find out that they do. And so essentially what I found Suzanne Collins has done really well with 13 especially is that, because they have very strict routines, you know, you've got to be here at a certain time, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, and they essentially, you know, and obviously with finding out what happened to the prep team, she's like, okay, terrible stuff still does happen, because even though 13 technically has their own government and their own rules, people still get treated like shit here. And it's so good. It's so good. So, like I said, I'm only 100 pages into this, but from what I've read so far, this might be my favourite book of the 3. I do want to say I did cave and buy the hardcover of Sunrise from Waterstones, so that only got sent out today, which is really good, because I only ordered that like yesterday, I think. So I ordered that, but I probably will buy the paperback version of it when, well, hopefully Scholastic pulls these out, does Sunrise in these covers too, because they're really pretty as well, and I like the you can see it, it's fine. I'm sorry, I don't know how close up that was. But yes, I'm really, really enjoying it. Like I said, I'm only 100 pages into it, but I have got the audiobook from my library, because I do want to try and do some of this today, which is the lamp I showed you. I'm pretty sure I showed you guys that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, like I said, 100 pages in, really enjoying it. So yeah, hopefully I will talk to you guys when I've read, hopefully a bit more later today. Hey guys, so it is a bit later the next day, and I've just got up to part 3. So we did find out in this section that, so they decide they go to rescue Peter after he essentially warns them about the Capitol bombing District 13, and while they do that, they do this propro to essentially hack with their systems while they pull out this mission. And so we find out through Finnick that he talks a lot about Snow's like rise to power, and how, you know, all these certain opponents had a tendency to disappear. And one of these things was that he'd poisoned their drinks. But a thing he'd do was take a sip out of these things himself to avoid suspicion, because in the last book, when he comes to essentially tell her to convince him that she loves Peter, when he whispers in her ear as he goes past, she thought she could smell blood on his breath, and supposedly they reckoned that the reason why the smell of the roses was so prominent is so that you couldn't smell the blood on his breath, because in the last book, Katniss is like, I could not smell it until he essentially talked to my ear, and that's when you could smell it. I'm like, oh my god, I knew in the movies we found out that he was sick, but I just thought it was, like just a health thing. Because it wasn't really explained in the movies, it just sort of happened. So that's how we find out that that's essentially what she was smelling, was that it was the sores created by him essentially drinking this poison to avoid people becoming sus about it. I'm like, damn, that's shit's insane. So it'll be interesting to get to Ballad once I do that, because I'll probably listen to the audio for Sunrise on the Reaping first, and then go to Ballad, because I was talking to some people on Meredith's Discord last night, and they were like, you don't necessarily need to read Ballad before that. Like they say, you'd be pretty alright just to dive straight into it, because Ballad was like a lot of Easter eggs and that sort of thing. I'm like, okay, cool. So that's probably what I will do after I finish Mockingjay. But I am hoping to finish it tonight, because I need to start editing this video, and then because there's another video I want to try and edit together now that I've got most of the footage I want from it, apart from a few things as well. But yeah, so like I said, I've just got up to part 3, so they've just found out that, so essentially now that they've got District 2, they're doing the assault on the Capitol, and Katniss's squad has found out that they're just there to shoot the propaganda. They're not there to essentially fight. And then we've just got to the part where they've sent in Peter as well. And what I do like about the book is that there's a couple more interactions between Katniss and Peter in this after he's rescued, whereas there's only, I think it was just the only scene that they had in the same room was just one, and I'm like, it was a little bit, like, obviously it did the job at the time, but I'm like, you could have included some of the scenes in this part, but whatever, it's fine. So yeah, that's what I'm up to at the moment, but like, I know we're going to get into the really nitty gritty of the last half of this book, because it's only, that much longer. But I do know, well, I've seen the movie, so I know who dies and who doesn't. But, another thing I will say too is that what the movies did is, that I liked, that the books don't do, is that they actually have Effie rescued as well, but in the books we don't actually know what happened to Effie, but we're basically just led to assume that she's dead, which is so sad. Like, I liked Effie in the movie, she was really cool, but yeah, that was sad. But yeah, so that's what I'm up to at the moment. I'm up to part 3, so I know shit's about to hit the fan in this last part of the book, so yeah, hopefully I'll check in with you guys when I have a bit more of an update. Hello again. So I am now almost at the end. I'm now up to page, what are we? 368. So I'm up to chapter 23. And we've just had the death of pretty much half of the squad. And they weren't kidding when they say, like, this just happens so fast. Like, you don't get a chance to breathe with the amount of people we lose within, like, it's actually one chapter. No, two chapters actually. It's just holy shit, like, and that chapter was so well written too because so essentially they get driven into the sewer by the mutts, and she at one point says she can smell the scent of the roses, and that essentially is like fucks with the brain so much. Like it takes essentially a lot of people say like fucking moment. But the thing is, it just goes to show how much Snow fucks with their heads. Like the way he uses everyone against each other, and the way that he manipulates them with the roses, the mutts, everything else. I'm like, this motherfucker's crazy. Like, where did Suzanne come up with the idea for some of this? Because I'm like, what the heck? Like, the way some of these people die too, like Masala, like, he essentially becomes like this, trapped in this beam of light, and then his flesh is, the way that it's described is the flesh melts off his body like candle wax. Oh, Jesus. And, Finnick, oh, Jesus, like, I will say, though, I do, like, because this happened so quickly in the book, I do appreciate that the movie, it sounds so horrible to say that it sort of, the movie felt a bit more, well, this scene felt a bit more drawn out, because obviously they had to draw it out for, the fact that they split this into two movies, which I don't think was it necessary? I kind of don't think it was, but anyway, that's not the point. The fact that it happened so quickly in this, and you don't get room to breathe at the end of this, it's insane, and I know a lot more shit is about to go down. I'm like, holy crap. Anyway, that's what I'm up to. Yeah, so I'm up to page 368. So I am going to try and finish this and then hit you back up when I've finished it. Hey guys, I am back. So I did finish Mockingjay an hour ago, and I really liked it. So I'm going to give this 4.5, only because it did drag a little bit for me. But this was so good. I will say that I don't understand why people didn't like this book, because apparently they didn't like the way that she acted or whatever, and I'm like, dude, this kid's been through shit, like, that fucks up a person, you know what I mean? But I have to say, this is one of the most well-written things when it comes to the themes of, like, PTSD, because the way that the aftermath of all of this shit is described, where Katniss essentially just sits in her house for basically all the time. She doesn't move from that spot. She only eats when she's forced to, and she doesn't bathe either. Like, she's essentially just a shell of a person. And I also, so with the epilogue, I can understand why people didn't like it, but I can also understand why people were okay with it as well. Like, I personally like the epilogue. Obviously there's, like, they're going to feel the effects of this shit for the rest of their lives, it's never going to go away. It's never going to just disappear overnight. It's never going to go away. And the fact that and the way Suzanne describes the relationship between Katniss and Peter, and how they essentially, I think they're trauma bonded a lot too, because obviously they've both gone through the horrors of the games together, and they know what it's like to go through that. So I think that's where their understanding comes from, is essentially, whereas with Gale, like, he didn't have to go into the game, so he didn't witness a lot of the stuff firsthand, whereas Katniss and Peter did. So I can kind of understand why they ended up together. But then I can understand why people didn't like that they ended up together as well. So I can see it from both sides of the pond. But the devastation of losing Prim, like, that got me. That really did. And, the fact that she looks her in the eye right before it happens, I'm like, I could not even imagine that. But this was really well done. So I'm quite interested to see my thoughts on Sunrise, because I saw Gavin gave it only 3 stars. So I'm quite interested to see his thoughts when his video comes out. But I probably am going to dive into that one next instead of Ballad, because I just want to learn more about Hamish. One thing I did like about Hamish. So not long after Peter essentially joins the rest of the rebel group, she essentially snaps back at him saying, well, I can easily kill him because he's a mutt, essentially. And Hamish's reaction, his reaction to that, he essentially pulls her aside and he's like, okay, I want you to put yourself in the opposite position. I want you to put yourself in his shoes. And, okay, so imagine that. What would he do if the roles were reversed? If it was you that suffered what he did instead of him? And she's like, what would he be doing right now? And she goes, everything to bring him back. And he's like, so how about you just stop getting so defensive and just, realize that, like, yes, that's what he would do. I'm like, thank you. Because, okay, a part of me can understand why she gets defensive when he starts attacking her, but like Hamish says, like, okay, this is part of Snow's games, honey. Like, this is what he does. It's to get you to hate him and, like, just stop. I'm like, thank you. Oh my God. That was so good. I loved him for that. But yeah, so I'm going to give this 4.5. Like I said, it did drag a little bit for me, but the last part of this book is just non-stop. You don't get a chance to breathe. You don't get a chance to sort of sit and process what happened. And, it was so good. So yes, that's what I'm up to at the moment. I won't start Sunrise today. I might start it tomorrow. Normally tomorrow is my boogie bounce class, but I don't know whether I want to go to the physical class or just, because I do want to sign up for the online classes, so those classes run Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but then I work Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesdays anyway, but the Tuesday, Thursday classes are always at 5:30 in the afternoon, and that's obviously when the going home traffic's really bad, and then, like, on the Tuesdays I could go, but then I'd have to drive home for a couple of hours and drive a half-hour drive back into the city. I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I was thinking about signing up for the online classes because she only just started those back up. I'm like, yes, that sounds like a good thing. Because unless I have anything else to do after that class, it's sort of just essentially just driving into the city for a class and then coming back. So yeah, I don't know whether I'll be doing that tomorrow, but I probably should go and sign up for those online classes while I think of it. But yes, hopefully I will start Sunrise tomorrow. Hello, so it is like 1 a.m. the next day, but I did start Sunrise on the Reaping today, and I just got to part 2, and it's good. I really enjoy it. At the moment, I would say the amount of deaths that have happened in the first part alone is holy shit. Like, Suzanne Collins isn't holding back on this either. What I will say about this book is there's a lot of foreshadowing, especially when we're talking about Hamish as a character, because I'm seeing a lot of parallels between him and Katniss in the way they want to essentially defy the Capitol. Also, the fact that in this book, Hamish isn't a drinker, and if you've read these books, you know, they essentially becomes an alcoholic later on. So it's interesting to see as we progress how that'll come into play towards the end, because I know it definitely will. And we've just had the chariot ceremony, and the youngest girl, he's like this. So essentially, she's the one where we kind of find out where he came with the sweetheart endearment, because he calls Katniss sweetheart in the original trilogy. I'm like, oh my god, it was so sad when she died. But like I said, the foreshadowing between Haymitch and Katniss it's very obvious in this book. I will say too, the narrator, Jefferson White, he's doing a fantastic job. Like the narration he does of the other victors, as well as, well, not the other victors, the other tributes, and the way he narrates it is really funny. Like, especially the other boy who likes to calculate odds and that, because they're in the training session and he's talking about, so I can't talk odds. It's like, no. Like in terms of odds and dying and blah blah blah. Like, just don't. She's like, just don't. It's weird. Like, don't start doing that shit. The dynamic between the two boys and the remaining girl, the snooty one, I can't remember what her name is at the moment, but I'm loving the interactions between them as well. And oh my god, the scene with Snow and Plutarch's place, and so essentially he comes into the Plutarch's house essentially and starts vomiting blood, because we found that in the original trilogy in Mockingjay that he essentially not only poisoned his enemies but poisoned himself as well to essentially deflect suspicion. And that's essentially how that's why in the second book Katniss could smell blood on his breath when he got close, because it was from all the ulcers from his poisoning that he's been slowly doing over the years. And the doppelganger, I'm like, the fucking mind games this dude plays to essentially screw with the other kids. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, oof. Jeez. But yeah, so that's what I'm up to at the moment. I just got up to part 2. So basically part 2 ended with the death of the younger girl from 12 and him essentially carrying her body across this field to, and he essentially dumps her in front of Snow. It's like, this is all you're doing. Oh, another thing I want to say too is she does a really good job at showing of how much the Capitol controls what the districts see in terms of the games. So, like, they don't see what happens to the young girl from 12. They don't, because that's essentially where the doppelganger is coming in. Like, they cut off the moment before she died. So, essentially, nobody knows that she's dead. And then, Snow essentially wants the District 12 kids to pretend this other girl who's essentially been a doppelganger for the dead girl. He essentially expects them to play along and pretend that she's the real girl. It's like, what the fuck is going on? It's insane. So I don't know what else is going to happen. Like, obviously we haven't got to the games part yet, because we've only just had we had the chariot ride, which happened in the first book, and then we had the fact that Mags and Wirus are Haymitch's mentors in this book, and they essentially become tributes in the second Hunger Games novel. Oof. Yeah, it's insane. So that's what I'm up to at the moment. Like I said, I'm up to part 2. I probably won't listen to any more tonight because I do need to go to sleep because I am tired. So, as for the star rating, I'm not exactly sure yet. At the moment, I'm probably sitting on a 3.5. Like, the writing is really, really good, but not a lot. Like, I did see a TikTok where somebody was talking about how she wanted to, she was thinking about maybe DNFing it because she thought, to her, it was like a lot of the points of this book is just a lot of, what's the phrase for it? Like member berries. I think that's what it feels like. And I can see where she's coming from because a lot of this is, foreshadowing for events that happen later on, and, the parallels between Haymitch and Katniss, and, how they essentially don't want the Capitol to use them for their own twisted games. And so I can see where she's coming from in that too. So, but at the moment, I'm enjoying it enough. It's good. Like I said, I'll probably be a 3.5 at the moment. That may well change the further we get into the book, because like I said, we haven't even got up to the games part yet, so that probably won't happen until like part 2. No, not part 2, part 3, sorry, I should say, because that's what happened in Catching Fire, because that was essentially, like, the games were just that short. In book 2, it was essentially, like, part 3, and that was it. So, yeah, that's what I'm up to at the moment, and hopefully tomorrow I should be able to listen to more.
How could you have a problem with Katniss right now? It's just like Gale and Peter are being so unfair to her. Like, both of them at times are so unfair to her. Of course I love Gale, but what kind of love does she mean? What do I mean when I say I love Gale? I don't know. I did kiss him last night. It's just like she's still like trying to figure it out herself, even though she said and stated she doesn't really want to vote for.
Hey guys, so it is the next day, and I have just gotten to the end of part 2. What the actual fuck? Beatty's son, the flesh-eating squirrels, there's only a skeleton left. What the actual fuck? Suzanne, are you okay? Well, I think the answer's no, but Jesus Christ. Like, what the fuck? Oh, and I love Macy Lee, I think her name's. She's probably one of my favourite characters. Like, just the banter she has with this Desiree, or whatever the fucking name is. Like, she's a Effie Trinket wannabe, as Gavin just called her, because I have watched his reaction to the second part of Ballad. So, and so much has happened. We've lost the copy, the little girl they brought in as the dupe for the other District 12 girl that got killed. She died too. I'm like, oh, it's so sad. Because before, while they're on the way to the games, the District 11 tributes worked out that that's probably where she was from, because she started singing a song from their district that they knew, and because essentially as soon as this girl from 11 started singing, she immediately picked up on it. Like, oh, it's so sad. It's just the fact that this girl is so, it's just used. It's just so horrible. Oh my god. Suzanne Collins is not pulling punches with this book. I will say it kind of, so at the moment it's probably sitting on a 4-star rating, probably no higher than that. I think a lot of I'm definitely enjoying it. It's not kind of like Catching Fire, where like the games were the last third of the book where those games start, because the games essentially do start in the second half. But I'm kind of, it doesn't, I think the fact that knowing what's coming, because essentially he's part of this plot to blow up this water tube or something where the mutts come out of, to essentially destroy the arena. And I think Gavin put it perfectly in his video that this is essentially the alternate version of what would happen if Katniss hadn't successfully carried out the plan in Catching Fire. That's what this feels a lot like. It is very true. What's probably holding me back at giving it a 5-star rating is that I don't know whether it's the fact that I know that this book doesn't have a, well, to be fair, none of these books have a happy ending, let's be honest, but the fact that I know what's coming later on, because essentially you know that, you know, Haymitch does eventually win these games and, you know, he becomes a victor, but it'll be interesting to see what part 3 does, because now that, you know, we've sort of gotten to the part where, okay, well, we have blown this thing up, but they've sort of, we've had the beginning of the volcano, which I know does take out a lot of the other tributes as well, because I think that basically leaves him, is it him and Marceline, whoever her name is from 12, the other girl? From what I remember, it's him and another girl that are left after this volcano part, so that's what I'm up to at the moment. But yeah, like, it's definitely not giving me 5 stars at the moment. It's definitely a solid 4 at this stage. But like I said, it's probably because I know the fact that this is, you know, Haymitch essentially wins. So, but I will say I'm not, like, it's not 5-star energy, but it's not dampening my enjoyment of it at all, because I did put together that Beauty and the Beast lamp while I was listening to the second half of this book, and I'm just about to start the third part today, because I do want to get this finished, because I still need to read Ballad, because I did try and watch the movie, but I ended up turning it off because I got bored. So I don't know whether I'm going to DNF the book if I didn't like the movie, but depending on what happens, we shall see with that. I'm definitely going to give it a go anyway, but yeah, so that's what I'm up to at the moment. I'm going to start listening to part 3 and hopefully catch up with you guys when I've hit the end of the book.
This is already so much better than Battle of Stockford 6. It's so much better already. Oh my god. I finished part 1, and I was wondering if we were going to get the same kind of formula as the first Hunger Games book. You know, we have Katniss in District 12, and her name is called in the Reaping, and she gets the train to the capital, and we have all the same kind of things. And yes, we are following the same all the same kind of things, and yes, we are following the same framework as that. I have been shocked a couple of times already in how this has been unfolding. And this is exactly what Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is missing. It was that shock factor. It was giving me a little bit, something, you know, to really tide me over and make me want to continue reading, make me want to finish the book. And this is already so good. Like, so good. When Haymitch thinks, you know, after the initial bloodbath at the cornucopia, he's like, oh, the game makers have gotten enough deaths today, so we should be fine for the rest of the day. Katniss has said that, like, I think in both 1 and 2, she said something similar. Like, it's very easy to have the same kind of thoughts as Katniss in this book. So again, as much as I'm really enjoying this, I am seeing some repetition. Obviously, things are definitely different with Haymitch's situation in the games.
Hey guys, so I am back. So I just finished Sunrise on the Reaping about 10 minutes ago, and oh, it was so sad, the ending. Like, I knew, like, Maisily and Haymitch's family were going to die, but it was still so sad. And when he was coming home back on the train, the fact that he came back with the other 3 tributes coffins in the carriage next to him. I went, oh, like, that'd be so hard to... Holy shit. And then when his girlfriend died, oh, because he gives her these candies that he sent back to... he got sent back to 12, and he thought that these ones that she picked up in the meadow were the ones that he'd sent, but turns out that she kept them in her home, and it turns out they were poisoned. Like, oh my god, that was gut-wrenching. So that was kind of the catalyst then for essentially what sent him into a spiral, made him start drinking, made him stop caring, and just, oof, it hit really hard. The one complaint I do have about, well, actually there's a couple. So I felt like the games part dragged on for a little bit longer than I would have personally wanted. Just because, I think it's because I know what happens anyway, and like the fact that the games went by so quickly in Catching Fire, and this sort of dragged out a bit more. I've also been seeing some people point out, and it's a good point to make too, that so like you've got Mags, Wirus, Speedy, and Plutarch essentially kind of behind this plot to unravel the games, and obviously it doesn't go wrong. And then, and somebody pointed out, and this is a good point, that in the first book, the is it seeing the crane? Oh, the crane, the games master, the one in the first book. He essentially cocked up once, and then, you know, essentially got bumped off. But then the fact that these characters didn't sort of get the same, I sort of thought, well, it's a good point to make. It kind of felt like, okay, are we just like, obviously you can't kill them off because you know they turn up in book 2, but it's kind of like, you have a point. Yeah, but this was so heartbreaking. And the epilogue, or when Haymitch is, I like that she ended the epilogue with the ending of the series itself. So obviously this is after, you know, Snow's been defeated, and the memory book, oh, that was so heartbreaking. And the fact that it took so long, it was like the space of 25 years, I think, for him to finally, because like with the memory book, you know, like it's a thing that Katniss and Peter started to essentially write down memories of all these people, and then, you know, originally he was against the idea, but then at one point it just all started coming out, and he wrote it down. But it was so heartbreaking too, just, oh. But I reckon that was a nice little way to wrap up that book, you know, with what happens from his point of view after essentially Snow's defeated and blah blah blah. So I have decided to give this 3.5 stars instead of 4. Mainly for those two reasons. It did drag a little bit too much for me, and some parts definitely felt a bit kind of fan servicey, more than, yeah, kind of felt fan servicey a bit to me. Which I know some people won't care about that, and that's fine. You're more than, you know, I don't have a problem with that necessarily, but for me, I'm kind of like, it kind of took me out of the story a little bit, but overall I still really enjoyed it. So yes, I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. Not the 4 stars I originally was going to give it, but yeah, it was still good. So I only have Ballad to read now. I probably won't pick that up today. Although I suppose I could start it tonight, because I do have like 3 full days work coming up. So, and normally after work I don't feel like sitting down and reading a whole lot. I may or may not, although kind of thinking whether I should just sort of take a break between these books and start another one I want to read, and then come back to Ballad in a couple of days' time. I don't know. I do kind of want to finish this video before the end of March, because obviously that's, you know, the more people read these books, the more videos are going to come out, and I kind of want to get that out while it's still still fresh in people's brains, essentially. So, but yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it for now. And like I said, I don't know whether I'll pick up Ballad tonight or whatever, but when I do, I will hit you guys back up when I have started Ballad. Hey guys, so it's a little bit later in the evening, and I did decide to pick up the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So I just got up to the end of part 1, and I've got to be honest, I'm not seeing a lot of villain origin story in this. I'm like, okay, so how does he become the evil piece of shit that we know he becomes in the books? Because I'm not seeing any of it at the moment. Like, there's like what? How many pages are we into now? 150, nearly 160 pages. And so obviously in this one, the family's poor. They're essentially trying to paint this image that they're still surviving, when clearly they're quite struggling to, you know, even pay the taxes on the house, and essentially struggling to eat day to day, basically, because they eat a lot of like cabbage soup and that. And so basically this is like the very early days of the Hunger Games, where they're struggling to essentially get people to watch, because obviously, you know, it's the nature of the games is just so fucked up. But so a lot of this is about the very early days of the games, and how it sort of came a bit more to fruition in terms of what we know later on. And obviously we've got characters like Dr. Ghoul, who's absolutely, like, the fact that Snow in this book describes her as a psycho, first on, I'm thinking, well, it's quite interesting for him to say that, knowing that he becomes a psycho in the later books. But I'm just not seeing any more origin story in here. It's not really, because in this he's not coming across as evil. He's not becoming the dictator we know him to be. So I'm sort of thinking, okay, where is this going to come from? Because so far I've got nothing, no sort of hint that, you know, not even some of the thoughts he's had so far have come across as, oh, okay, this is just fucked up. You know, it's not coming across to me as a villain. And it's, yeah, I start to see why people don't like this book, because it's not really giving me what it is, or what it should be, which is an origin of, okay, well, why did he turn so bad? You know, why did he become what he becomes in later books? I'm just not getting it at the moment. So I really don't know. I really hope it does. We do get a bit more, but from what I've heard, it doesn't really happen until like the very last part of the book. So I'm a little worried about that. So in terms of star rating, it's probably sitting on maybe a 3, like a very low 3, just because the writing is fantastic. Like, Suzanne Collins writes really well, I'll give her that. But not a lot is happening in terms of, yeah, like I said, where are we getting the origin from? Where are we getting the parts of him that are... Okay, calm down, kids. We know you're compensating for your small shit, but let's go. Sorry. Man of noisy cars that cross our neighborhood is insane. Yeah, I'm not getting the evilness of Snow yet. And I would have thought, like, because this is over, like, how many pages is this book, by the way? It's like 500 or something. It's like 517 pages, and I'm getting nothing of, yeah, like this dude's evil. I'm not getting that. So that's probably my biggest complaint at the moment is, yeah, we're just not getting that origin story. So I don't know how the rest of the book is going to go. I definitely don't have time to read any more of it now, because I do, most of the time it's like 11 o'clock and I do have to get up early for work in the morning. So I do have a long day at the moment, and Sundays are usually hectic. So yeah, so I've got to end the part one, but it'll be interesting to see what happens and how the rest of it goes. But yeah, I'm not getting what was promised, essentially. Yeah, that's what I'm up to now, and I'll check in with you guys hopefully again tomorrow.
Wait, only 5 seconds later in the audiobook, Plutarch says he has an old friend in District 12. Who? No. Who? Hamish. Hamish tells this little boy, sweet dreams, before he goes to sleep. During a massacre. I've always loved him, but God, I love Hamish.
Hey everyone, so it is now a couple of days later, but I did finish The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes the other day. So I am going to give this one overall a 3-star. It's not my favourite. I think it's probably my least favourite in the series. And I think the reason why is because, to me, it felt a little bit too long. I think it did need to be trimmed a little bit more. Throughout as we got in a little bit further, I was seeing a lot more of why Snow essentially becomes what he is, because there's a lot of, especially, well, from the beginning he comes across as someone, you know, who just essentially wants to take care of his family, but there's always that influence, especially I think Dr. Gall especially was a big influence, especially in the way that she tries to get these students to say, well, what's the benefit of war? And they're like, really? Like, that's, you want us to answer that question? And so the way that she tries to essentially use these games to prove that, oh, this is all humans are good for, you know, this is how they, this is how the world is, it's chaotic, but time and time again she gets proven wrong. And he essentially, to me, comes across as very, what's the word I'd say? He's kind of like a sponge, I found in this book. He's very influenced by people like Dr. Gall, because you can, especially in the book, I think the book, definitely, I will say the book is a lot better than the movie. I will say that, because I ended up essentially quitting the movie halfway through because I was so bored. But essentially, I will give it the book credit in that regard, because I think especially because, like, in the book you don't see what happens in the tunnels from Lucy Gray's perspective, because obviously this book is entirely told from his point of view, but I definitely think that the movie could have left that out, because this is essentially about him, not, like, yes, Lucy has a essential part to play in essentially how he becomes who he is, but, and sort of how that leads into him, trying to erase any memory of the cubby from District 12, because obviously she haunts him for the rest of his life. And you do see that play out in future books as well. But yeah, I don't know what it was that made me like this book a lot less. It's probably, I do think it's the fact it dragged a little bit too long for my liking, but I do like Suzanne's writing. She is really, really good. So I found that experience overall did make me bump Sunrise on the Reaping up to 4 stars, simply because it's, like, to me, the events in that book hit a lot more in the feels than the events in that book did. And I don't know whether it's, like, obviously because Snow is essentially, this is a villain origin story, so you're not essentially going to, he's not meant to be made, you're not supposed to root for the guy. Look, come on, let's be fair. But yeah, I don't know, I can understand why people like this book, but then I can also understand why people don't like it. They don't have that same, I think it's the emotional response from what I've been seeing anyway. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but especially from what I've been seeing, a lot of the reactions to this book in particular, it feels more kind of like something was missing. But I can see why people do like this book and some don't, but I can sort of really see why the reaction was so mixed towards it. But yeah, so like I say, I gave it 3 stars. It's probably my least favourite out of all the books. And like I say, I did essentially bump Sunrise up to 4 stars. Even though that does have a couple of kind of things I felt, okay, this is kind of a little bit on the nose in terms of repetition and blah, blah, blah. But, so yeah, so I'm going to leave this video here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know this is probably a really rambly one. I know my commentary is probably not the most riveting commentary out there, but I am glad I picked these books up, because I definitely will give these a reread later on, obviously at a later date when I don't have so much other books I need to read. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. All my details and whatnot will be linked down below, and if you want to follow me, you are more than welcome to. And I shall see you guys in another video, hopefully coming a lot sooner. Bye.
Goodbye forever, you factory reject dildos.